Ann Arbor's Talk Station, 1290 WLBY. Damian on Design with Damian Farrell. He is with Damian Farrell Design Group, local award-winning architect. Great to have him back on the show today. We're going to talk about building your own home. If you've done it before, would you do it again? That's a question I've been asking myself. We just closed on the house that we built, and it was excruciating to go through this process. However, I want to say, Damian, that I would do it all over again so that I could do it with the newfound knowledge I have.
All right, you just stole all my thunder with that question. But I'm sort of reversing the tables here on you and Dean, because it's rare that here we sit in a room, all three of us have built our own homes. The two of you very, very recently. You've just moved in. Dean moved in, a month or two ago, Dean?
It was in May.
In May. Oh, time does fly.
Yes.
But you both started from scratch. You went through the land purchasing selection process, finding where you wanted to live.
Mm-hmm.
You both, I think, worked with kind of a standard plan from a builder and then did some modifications to it.
In my case, apparently a few more modifications than the builder would have liked. and when I signed on for this builder, I did it purely because I liked the land, I liked the location. It was very important to me. Dean found his land first and knew that he wanted to build on that.
Yeah, you did yours independently, Dean. You found a very beautiful piece of land.
Right, which, thank you, you came and looked at it.
Which was a delight. And then you went through a builder selection process, right? You
Precisely.
spent some time interviewing and talking to different builders.
Well, I found the land, actually, but before we purchased, I had actually decided on the builder before that.
Okay, that's right.
You'll probably remember this, because when you came out, it was actually on Labor Day. Son of a gun.
It was, too.
Yeah, you came out
It was a
on
holiday, I remember that.
Yes.
We came out and
So it was almost 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And because the reason I wanted you to look at it was because I wanted to see if your opinion on if we could put in a walkout
That's
basement.
right.
Because of the way that the land sloped down a little bit, and you thought that it would work, but also the builder had looked at the land before that.
Yeah.
He thought it was, but he wanted a more professional opinion, so he thought you'd be a good person to talk to as well.
Which brings up an interesting point. A builder wanting more professional opinion, going to an architect. Talk about the role different people have in building a house.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I think there are two distinct realms of home building. I think that there is this very distinct realm which the two of you followed and took with slight differences, which is, and I think what defines it is a selection of a plan that has been drawn for a generic site, and then the two of you working with your builder to make the modifications to suit your lifestyle and your particular needs. Lucianne, in your case, probably the most important and driving factor was accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make a home where you and your husband-to-be and your dad can live together on one floor, share that sociability and that sense of community within one house,
right,
but still have your privacy?
Mm-hmm.
And you went through a process of modifying. You and I worked together on some of that. I think, Dean, in your case, it was a little different. It's just the two of you.
Yep.
You had some special needs that you wanted to accommodate, particularly around pets.
Right.
Which is actually very important. I mean, we're seeing more and more focus on, when you look through some of the literature in home remodel magazines and building magazines and the kinds of periodicals we get, focuses on including pet design, friendly pet design into kitchens, places for bowls where they're tucked out of the way, not kicked all the way, and bins where you can store food and not have them sitting out, those kinds of things.
So yeah, there was that. We wanted handicap accessible, just planning for the future.
Right.
The only thing that we really changed in the design of the house was bumping out a breakfast nook to go out farther from where the wall would have been.
You changed the front though with the closet, right? Or
yes,
yes.
And yes, the original design, there was no front closet.
Your
as
wife
you would
wanted
walk
one.
in. She says, you know, you need a place to hang up
Place to hang
coats when you
coats,
come
right.
in.
Yeah,
So they
Yeah.
originally didn't have that because they wanted this open, it was a real open look into the house.
Yeah.
You would walk in the front door, you would see everything.
Yeah.
Well, this cut down on some of that open look, but it's still good enough. You
Yeah.
can still see a lot of it. So there was that change as well, and everything went fine.
Yeah.
There was no issues with anything.
In my case, I went with what's known as a production builder, someone who goes
Right.
in and builds subdivisions, very similar houses.
yes,
Granted, there's a lot of land. Everyone is on at least an acre or more. Some are up to 3 acres. And it is a higher-end subdivision in Saline. But along the way, I kept being reminded by the builder, we are not a custom builder. They could be, they say, but we are not a custom builder.
yeah, and that's another distinction.
It is, and I
Yes.
forced them to be somewhat of a custom builder, and I think that's where we had a lot of our problems along the way. We took their design, we opened it up, made a much brighter open concept. We added another master suite, so we had 2 master suites, and at the time the builder told us, you know, I don't know about the resale of this. Since then, a year later, wow, have we had a lot of people ask about this design.
Oh, yeah, I mean, what both of you have done, the focus on accessibility,
Mm-hmm.
and a house doesn't have to show it. I think
Right.
people still, if you talk about my house is barrier-free, I think people start to get images in their minds
You're
about
right.
ramps and handrails. That is absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
You know, it gets into the consideration of door widths, turning circles. Imagine yourself just simply being in a wheelchair.
That's right.
And how do you move around the house as opposed to, you don't need bars and...
But
you know.
it's easier to do something like this in a warmer climate than it is here because, you know,
Yes.
that transition between indoors to outdoors becomes very difficult because of our snow and wet and all that
Right.
stuff and what they have to do in there. So
Yeah.
we're still not exactly where I would have liked to have been. I think we could
So
have...
you're sort of 90% of the way there,
Yes,
maybe.
and some of it we're going to retrofit after the fact. As
Yeah.
you well know, you've been helping work on our design for the front. We told the builder not to put a sidewalk in the front because we need to make the porch in the front accessible for a wheelchair as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
And so you've come up with a great way to do that with landscaping and with pavers, and we're looking forward to seeing that
Yeah.
come to be. And it's the next phase of this house building that we've been through here.
But I think, so to our listeners, anyone who might be considering the home building process, I think we've touched a very good distinction. There are builders who will customize for you. There are builders who won't.
The problem with those who are pure custom home builders, they don't necessarily have the land. Or if they have the land, it was way in the outskirts. Oh, there was
Yes.
one builder we talked with that had land up in northern Dexter. That was just too far for our needs. Loved the area, it was beautiful,
Right.
but it wasn't reasonable that I could get to work every morning
Yeah.
on time.
Yeah.
And we wanted to be closer to some medical things here.
Yeah.
And so you have to weigh all that. You have to know what's important in your life, and then you have to decide. So the custom
Yeah.
builders didn't have the land. I didn't have the fortitude and the wherewithal to go look for land,
Right.
and I needed land that was closer. Dean didn't mind being outside the city. He's between Ann Arbor and Dexter.
Yeah.
But again, those are all the considerations
Yeah.
one has to take.
I think, and very important ones for someone starting into this process.
Right.
So my other question for you guys, why new? Why not another house with and a remodel perhaps as a contrast? So what drove each of you to make that decision?
Well, finding a house, first of all, would be extremely difficult.
Yeah,
And then being able to win a bidding war,
Right.
if you get into that.
yeah,
Just decided that it would just be easier just to find the land and build, and then we would know what we wanted.
yeah,
It was just
Yeah.
part of the process.
Yeah.
Figured it would be easier to get something perfect if you do it
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, I had, in my case, we had looked for years
you
and
had.
years. And just as a backstory to our situation, 12 years ago, we were poised to buy a house. And the
Mhm.
week we were supposed to close on it as a family, my mother passed away.
right,
The seller let us get out of the contract at the time, which was highly unusual. I don't even think we lost any money on the deal. My father and I, we just didn't, when that happened, we couldn't imagine this because the house was very much my mother.
yeah,
So literally, I've been looking for 12 years since then. And most recently, I would say in earnest, the last 2 years, and could not find anything particularly that was accessible. A lot of the ranches out there, I did not want to walk out because we wanted to get to the grounds from the main floor. That was very important. Although you had told me, and I think you, when you were designing a house for me during our show a year or so ago, you had come up with a great idea where you'd carve out one part of the earth, so it could be a walkout or have a little patio type thing,
Right.
but yet you'd still get up from the ground floor as well, and I thought that was unique.
And actually that's a good, because from my experience, when people talk about a walkout, generally what you see is almost like a full walkout. There's there's this expectation that comes with that description that a whole lot of the back of the house, generally the back of the house, right, is walkout. That doesn't have to be. You can achieve both. You can retain earth and create areas of walkout at a main floor level, but also have some view out or walkout. I have that in my house. Our guest suite is actually on the lower level, but it's not a walkout, but it's a complete view out of the full depth, and it looks out into a sloped garden that rises up to the rest of the land. So you can have the blending of both. But so another question for the two of you. Looking back, was there any preparation that you didn't do going into this process that you should have? Any thoughts that caught you by surprise as it was happening, that you wish you had some consideration about?
I felt pressured to make decisions quickly.
Yeah.
Decisions, what do you want, for the, do you want brick, do you want, once it got down to, we put brick, shake, stone. I had to make very quick decisions. What kind of stone? What kind of shakes? What kind of brick? And you're only giving these little, at least in my case, these samples. So I wish I had had more time to go around and see it on someone else's house or in a magazine.
And I think that's fairly characteristic of the path you took. So I think a production home builder will give you generally choose from this range of this. They know the product. They have a certain price from their supplier. There are not a lot of options outside of that. Maybe it's one or two different kinds of floor manufacturer with a range or stone. And their process relies on fairly quick decision making.
Right.
So, perhaps again, if a listener is choosing to go that path, do your research. Find out or know early what you like.
Also, you should add at least $100,000 onto the base price you're looking at there.
Sad, but
because
true.
Our tastes are not the base price,
Yes.
I would guess. And not even that, but there are just certain things, like a lot of times the land isn't included. That's an extra cost.
Right.
Or just simple things are not included. You may see the model home has the upgraded kitchen cabinets. You're looking at the base price for what you're going to be buying, and then you realize, it doesn't include that. It includes a lesser grade, and after you've seen the upgraded, let me tell you, you don't want the low grade.
Well, and that's the point. I mean, generally all these models will be upgraded to their maximum as part of a sales tool, but also a part of making it look the best it can, right? Dean, anything in your instance? No. You guys did a very thorough preparation, I thought.
I put all the, let's say 95% of the internal decisions. I let my wife make those decisions.
But she really did her homework, though.
She did her homework. She did a good job. She had, because basically I knew I liked her taste in what she would do. And I know that she wouldn't do anything that I would absolutely hate.
Yeah.
So I felt confident in just letting her decide.
Yeah.
As they say, happy wife, happy life.
Well,
and then also it's like, if she doesn't like something, she can't complain to me about it later.
Smart man.
There you go.
Damian, when it comes to paint, interior paint, oftentimes you see ads in the, for these houses, in these new builds.
Right.
Just in time you still have time to pick your colors, or you still have time to do X, Y, Z. In my case, I was told, we do builder white. So I don't know if that was particular to my builder, or was it how we were doing our house, how we customized it more?
No, I think that's...
Or is that a lure to get people in a spec home that they're building, to get them to buy it? to say, oh, you can pick out your paint
Yes, I think it is.
color.
I think it's to provide as much of a neutral product that you are looking at, and so it gives you that sense of control of being able to tailor, and pull in some of your own colors, and it gives you something that is least offensive. You're not going to walk in, or you're not going to see a palette that completely turns you off, and so that eliminates a risk on a home builder's part. So it's providing you with this vanilla background, if you will, that you can then dress up. And paint is the easiest one to customize,
Right.
if you will. When you get into, no, I really don't like that line of cabinets, you may be at the same cabinet shop and there's another line, you start to throw the system into problems.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's a good thing. You've got to know what your builder is geared for and fully understand that. Are they really flexible with ranges of things like tile, carpet, flooring, cabinets, doors, windows, those kinds of things? Do that homework up front and know what your limitations are or are not.
My realtor had warned me years ago about when we'd walk into a house, and literally I think I've gone to every open house in our price range that you can imagine. And she would say, because I'd be, oh, look at this, oh, how beautiful. She said, are you looking at the quality of the construction? Are you looking at the interior design? Are you looking at the furniture and the window treatments?
Yeah.
I said, oh yeah, I'm looking at all that.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's a big difference when you strip all that away. I have learned now when I go into people's homes after dealing with shoe molding and the trim to be a more astute eye to look how wide that trim is, or look how bad that trim was installed, or, does the shoe molding blend perfectly with it? I didn't even know what shoe molding was until I still don't understand why it's there, because now I look, I'm like, why? It just, it to me looks unfinished.
Yeah.
Even if it's all painted and all of that, but I guess there's a reason for all of that. So I just have a more critical eye having gone through the process, which is why I would like to build another house in 5 to 10 years, believe it or not. So this painful process has not steered me away from it. I think I could make the perfect house still.
Yeah.
I have that desire.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the things we talk with our clients about is the seductiveness of the products that are available out there now. And this touches on what you just mentioned as far as what the builders offer. So this is whether you're working with an architect, whether you're working with a production builder or a custom builder. There is so much on the market that is beautiful, that is sexy, and I'm talking about things like faucets, tile, flooring. Did you guys find in your experience where you were you drawn into that trap, as I call it? Trap sounds terribly negative, but it's something I warn my clients about very often, that I cite the example, I could probably take a 3,200 square foot house, for example, and probably have it designed and built and so on for in the $200 a square foot range. I could take the exact same house and just with cabinets, tile, and finishes, probably bump it to $350 a square foot without blinking an eye.
Yeah.
Did you find that in your process? Were you having to make those hard decisions?
No.
Okay.
Because I let my wife make the decisions. No, she did a good job. She did not. She stayed within a budget. She knew that that there were things that we really wanted to do that we just couldn't afford to do, that we were trying to keep the price down.
Yeah.
She stayed in. The builder that we worked with congratulated her on this. Hey,
well,
you stayed right there.
Good for her.
Most people don't.
It's very difficult to do.
I think that if I had had more catalogs or magazines to look at, not little swatches, I would have gone way overboard seeing all the higher end things of it. Now, I went into this knowing I wanted certain things, and I'll give you an example where I failed. When I talked about glass doors on the walk-in shower, I envisioned the Euro doors.
So frameless, just a sheet of
Frameless.
glass.
I didn't even know that they still had ones that had the silver,
aluminum.
on the sides. Come to find out what gets installed in my house, that one. I didn't ask for Euro. I didn't know it was on the list. Now, granted, it was on the list. I just didn't know what that was. I should have asked a question. But I never saw, I'm a picture person. I need to see what things look like. And so I made a mistake there. So I'm going to be switching those out.
Yeah.
I'm also probably going to switch faucets out.
Yeah.
Things that I just didn't pay enough attention to that I probably would have upgraded if I could afford it.
Yeah.
I would. So I'm going to even switch out the lights on the outside of the house. I think they're way too small on the front porch. Need something a little grander with, I've got 2 columns there. So I'm going to switch those out.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Kitchen faucet's a good example, and I know this because I've just replaced mine in my kitchen after 15 years. You know, you can find very nice, high-quality, $400 kitchen. You can
Right.
get 200, but I would tell anyone, don't get those. They'll give it out on you within a year.
Right.
But you can also go to $1,200 in a flash.
Yeah, right.
And that's very challenging because what I see with my clients, especially with new homes, is you go to a place, a showroom, and you look and you go, boy, I love that particular faucet or that tub. Someone wants a freestanding tub. That's also another good example. And those may be $4,000, where you can also get a tub for $1,200. And then, and what I see is people saying, I'm just, that's my one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I'm over here and I'm looking at this faucet for my kitchen. I'm just going to go a little bit high. Man, I really love that. So I'm just going to do this other one.
It adds up quickly.
Boy, they add up fast.
Yeah.
Because I always remind people, you know, if you break down your house, you probably have about 23 to 28, maybe 30 line items of different trades or different components. And there's never one huge number. It's simply a total of a lot of small numbers adding up to one very big number.
Well, I can give you that big number in my
Yeah.
case. I was looking at a house at a certain price point. I ended up paying $150,000 more
Yeah,
than I thought going into this because of those very same
Yeah.
things.
yeah, yeah.
So buyers be aware. Buyers of builders of homes.
Discipline.
Yeah, that's right. And even,
Do the preparation, do the
Right.
discipline part of it, you know, and know up front. I mean, you know, I notice with our clients, the ones who come with selections made, generally they've got you know, they've made the selections and they're okay.
Mm-hmm.
They are not being forced into that, okay, you got to choose now kind of thing. We need this selection within 2 weeks.
Right.
And then you run the risk of it being a 2-week delay because it's not there and it's not available at the moment. Or so the preparation, I think, is really critical.
I agree. And even if you're buying a spec home, that's a home that the builder has built hoping someone's going to buy it, a speculation home. When you see that price, does that include the land? Does that include landscaping?
Right.
What does it include? These are all things you need to ask. By the way, landscaping, they say plan another 20%. Whatever you spend on the house, if you spent $600,000, another 20%.
Yeah.
I've heard
Mhm.
for landscaping.
Yeah, for a nice job that looks complete.
Right, exactly.
And you're not having to worry about too much soil erosion because you're only seeded and things like that, and your house ends up looking very sparse.
I've been admiring my neighbor's landscaping, and come to find out they paid over I think it was $47,000 for the landscaping. I had no concept that that's what
Yeah.
it costs.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's
do your homework, right?
do your homework.
That's right.
Do your homework.
Damian Farrell, he's an architect with Damian Farrell Design Group on the air each week with Damian on Design. Some great insight, I think, to for people who are considering building that new home.
Well, it's good to turn the tables a little bit and hear about your experience, the two of you.
Oh, I've been very vocal about it. So
Been very fresh in your minds.
That's right.
And it's been fun to work through it with you both as well. And,
Thank you.
And
Thanks for all
I've
your
learned.
input. You've been
Yeah,
wonderful.
I've learned things too, you
Oh.
know, because it's a different process from what we normally go through. So to be on the outside looking in, I've learned some stuff and I've watched some stuff go on, you know, and it's heightened my focus on some of the quality issues I think about
Right.
building. You know, I talked to you both about the whole air barrier, waterproofing,
Right.
what people would generally know as Tyvek, is the generic, that's
Right.
the Kleenex of house wraps, and the
Foundation.
criticalness, the foundation.
There, rebar in the foundation.
Yes.
And, you know, I could see it go in there. And it's basically, you want to make sure of these things. If you're doing business with a really good builder, they do these things.
Yeah.
I mean, they know these things.
They do.
But it was nice to see them doing all these
Yeah.
things, because then it gave me a lot of confidence
Right.
in what they were doing.
There's a massive opportunity for anyone who wants to cut corners in building.
Mhm.
Massive opportunities at every turn. But I think what's also important for someone considering this, remember that the builder is not the expensive person. Your expense, 70 to 80% of your expense lies in all of these subcontractors I've talked about. All these different people who are doing their labor in supplying their materials. So from concrete to the wood to drywall to electrical to mechanical, it's not, you hear people say, oh, he's an expensive builder. Generally in my experience, when someone says that, I relate that to that builder is going to finish your house at the price that they say, and you're going to get everything that they promise because they've been around a long time, they are experienced in the area, they're well known, and they really protect their reputation. So my advice is, don't shy away from someone saying to you, and usually it's someone who has no experience whatsoever. They may have never built a house, but they've heard from someone, oh, this person is expensive. Remember where the costs really lie. Find someone who you trust, who is trustworthy, check out their references, and then look at the quality of their homes. And those are the people who will give you a number and stick to it. And I think that's, am I right?
Well, they give you a number, and we were told ahead of time that we want you to not have any surprises at the end. So we're going to quote you prices, and this was especially building off-site.
Yes.
Which we were. There were a lot of things. It could be more expensive to do something. They didn't know how much dirt was going to have to be hauled away from the site. So they gave a high number, and they said, we'll come in under this, probably. But this is the highest that it's going to be, and they did. Yeah. So there was no surprises.
And I think that's what a good reputation, a well-proven builder who's been around doing it a long time in a small community, that's where I would always steer people.
Yeah, and I guess the only question is would I recommend my builder to somebody else? Absolutely. In a heartbeat. I would. They did good work.
I think builders, too, are at the mercy of who they're contracting with, and they don't always get the same crews in, or crews may change personnel, and I think that's kind of difficult.
It's very difficult for them.
I'd like to talk with builders that have their own crews.
And the reality now, because of the recession, many of the builders who may have had their own crews don't have them anymore.
Right.
So we lost a lot of trades.
That's right.
So what is happening now, we have diminished number of trades. There's still good ones, but all of these builders who did survive are scrambling to get the smaller pool as we start to build more houses. I mean, even though there is the sense that we're terribly busy, and we're not at pre-08 levels of rates of houses or the numbers. We're not there, but we just don't have as many people in the area. A lot of people, the recession was long enough, they didn't have the work. They left town. They went to the Carolinas or they went to Texas where building was going on. That recession is going to linger for a long time in this state.
Tell you one thing, though, those interest rates, if you want to build a house, do it now, or if you want to buy a house, mortgage rates are just absolutely, I think, still pretty incredible.
Yeah, they're going to go up.
Yep. They are going to go up. Talking to Dave Lutton, owner of Reinhardt Realtors, just yesterday in a meeting, he is adamant that this time next year we will be at over 5%.
Oh, really?
So, 5% is still pretty cheap money, but I think we're all comparing to the 3 3/8 mortgage that I, for instance, have right now, or the 4 1/8 or the 4.5 fixed.
2.375.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. So, it's a great time to do it. Build in some patience, do your homework, find someone. Don't get caught by someone who says, I can do it for some remarkable price. Materials cost what they cost. Drywall costs what it costs. Lumber does too. You may be a couple of cents difference between Fingerley and Chelsea, for instance, around here, but you can't move those numbers. There is no silver bullet.
That's right. That's right.
There is no silver bullet.
And people need to get paid for their work. Great talking with you. Thank you so much. Damian Farrell from Damian Farrell Design Group. For more information about his architectural firm, you can go online to dfdgonline.com. More coming up on the Lucy Ann Lance Show, Ann Arbor's Talk Station, 1290 WLBY.